Jake Morrison walked into the big round room for the last time. His hands shook a little as he held his papers. The room was huge and filled with strange beings from many different worlds. Some looked like giant bugs. Others were made of crystal. Some had too many arms or eyes. Jake had seen them all before during his 12 years working here. Today felt different. The alien creatures sat in their special chairs and made weird noises. Their machines turned their words into English so Jake could understand them. The noise was loud and messy. Jake waited for them to be quiet. Speaker Zethkar was the boss of this place. He was tall and made of blue crystal that sparkled in the Yao light. He had 4 arms and no face that Jake could see. When he talked, his voice came from somewhere inside his crystal body. "Ambassador Morrison," Zethkar said, "we hope you are here to discuss the trade problems. The Council values what humans think about things." Jake almost laughed but stopped himself. Values what humans think. That was a joke. For 12 years, Jake had tried to warn these aliens about danger. For 12 years, they had ignored him. They called humans names like war-loving primitives and too violent for civilized space. Behind Jake stood Captain Lisa Hayes. She wore her blue uniform and kept her hand near her weapon. Next to her was Dr. Alan Cooper. He was the smartest human Jake knew. Alan had spent years trying to share human science with these aliens. They had called his work crude and dangerous. "Honored Council," Jake said in a loud voice, "I am not here to discuss trade. I am here to tell you that humanity is leaving the Galactic Council. We quit. We are done. This is goodbye." The room exploded with noise. Aliens started talking all at once in their different languages. The translation machines could not keep up. Some aliens stood up from their chairs. Others made angry sounds. Zethkar raised all 4 arms to make them quiet. "Ambassador Morrison, this seems very sudden. Surely we can talk about whatever is bothering you. The Council has always been fair to humanity." Jake felt his anger rise in his chest. Fair. They called this fair. Fair? Jake said. 3 years ago we told you about the Kethmori Empire. We said they were building a huge army. We said they were planning to attack peaceful worlds. What did you do? Nothing. Counselor Trixana spoke up. She looked like a giant ant with 6 legs and big black eyes. Her voice was high and squeaky. The Kethmori situation was complicated. We believed we could solve it with peaceful talks. Dr. Cooper stepped forward. His face was red with anger. Peaceful talks. While they destroyed the Phelan colonies. While they turned an entire planet into slaves. While they killed millions of innocent people. Very peaceful indeed. Jake continued, talking. His voice got stronger with each word. When we offered to help you build better weapons, you called us aggressive primitives. When we said we should work together to stop the Kethmori, you called us warmongers. When we said you should stop trading with slavers, you said we were disrupting galactic harmony. More aliens started talking. Some of them looked scared, others looked angry. A few looked like they finally understood what Jake was saying. The Veltar representative was a being made of green crystal. His name was hard for humans to say. "Ambassador Morrison, perhaps we made some mistakes. But leaving the Council is not the answer. We can discuss these issues." "Discuss," Jake said. "That is all you ever do. You discuss and debate while people die. You have meetings about having meetings. You write reports about writing reports. And while you talk, the galaxy burns." Jake looked around the room at all the different aliens. Some had been friends to humanity. Others had been cold and distant. But all of them had made the same mistake. They thought the universe was a safe place where words could stop bullets and friendship could stop armies. "We tried to help you," Jake said. "We shared our technology. We shared our knowledge of war. We warned you about every threat we could. See? And what did you do? You told us to be quiet. You told us we were too violent. You told us we did not understand how civilized beings behave." Captain Hayes stepped forward. She had fought in 3 different wars before coming to work with the Council. She knew what real fighting looked like. The Kethmori Empire now controls 47 star systems. They have enslaved 6 different species. They have destroyed 12 peaceful worlds. All of this happened while you were having peaceful discussions. The room got very quiet. Some aliens looked at their hands or tentacles or whatever they had instead of hands. Others stared at Jake like they were seeing him for the first time. The decision is final, Jake announced. Starting right now, all humans will leave Council, Space. We will cancel all our agreements with you. We will stop all joint projects. We will close all our offices and bases. Humanity wishes the Council good luck in the future. Jake picked up his papers and turned to walk away. Captain Hayes and Dr. Cooper followed him. Their footsteps echoed in the big, quiet room. None of the aliens said anything as the humans left. As they walked down the long hallway, Dr. Cooper spoke, quietly. Do you think they will finally understand? Jake shook his head. They will understand when the Kethmori ships start bombing their cities. They will understand when their children are sold as slaves. They will understand when it is too late to do anything about it. Captain Hayes checked her watch. The evacuation ships are already moving. All human personnel will be out of Council. Space within 48 hours. Jake nodded. It had taken months to plan this withdrawal. Every human scientist, every human trader, every human diplomat was coming home. The aliens could keep their peaceful discussions and their harmony. Humanity was going to prepare for the war that was coming. Outside the council building, Jake looked up at the alien sky. Strange purple clouds drifted across 3 different moons. It was beautiful in its own way. But beauty would not stop plasma bombs. Pretty words would not stop invasion fleets. Let's go home, Jake said. The 3 humans climbed into their shuttle and flew toward the human embassy. Around them, the alien city continued its normal life. Beings from dozens of worlds walked the streets, bought things in markets, and went to their jobs. None of them knew that their peaceful way of life was about to end forever. By tomorrow, every human would be gone from this place. The council could return to their meetings and discussions. They could continue to believe that the universe was fundamentally peaceful and good. Soon they would learn how wrong they were. 6 months had passed since Jake Morrison walked out of the council chamber. The galaxy seemed peaceful to most aliens. Trade ships moved between worlds carrying goods and passengers. Diplomatic meetings continued as they always had. The various problems that had worried the council appeared to be getting better through their usual talks and agreements. On Earth, things were very different. General Patrick Stone stood in the command center of Luna Station, looking at screens that showed human ships all across space. The withdrawal from council territories was complete. Every human civilian, every human worker, every human family had come home safely. Now humanity was doing something they had planned for years, but hoped they would never need to do. Report, Commander, Stone said to Major Beth Collins. She was typing quickly on her computer, her fingers moving fast across the keys. All civilian people are out of council space, Collins said. The last transport ships came through the Centauri checkpoint this morning. Our military ships are all in the Terran defense zone. Colonial fleets are ready in all our systems. Stone nodded, but his face looked grim. Dr. Helen Wright came over carrying a small computer. She had studied alien behavior for many years. Her predictions about what would happen had been correct so far, even though the council had called her warnings human paranoia. General, our deep space monitoring stations are seeing more Kethmori fleet movements, Dr. Wright said. They are gathering ships in the Beta Quadrant, just outside where council sensors can see them. I think they are planning something big. The Kethmori Empire had been growing bigger for many years. They attacked smaller civilizations and made slaves of entire populations. Their technology was very advanced and their fighting methods were brutal. They seemed to want to conquer everything they could find. Humanity had been watching their movements for years, trying desperately to convince the council that these aliens were dangerous. Admiral Chris Morgan joined the meeting through a hologram from his flagship, the TDS Defiance. His face had scars from humanity's early fights with hostile alien species. Those fights had taught humans that being ready for war was very important. Intelligence reports say that 17 council worlds have had technical problems with their defense systems in the past month, Admiral Morgan said. These are standard Kethmori tricks. They sneak people onto planets to break things before they attack. They are getting ready for a massive offensive. President Wells joined the meeting from her secure bunker under Washington. She leaned forward in her chair. How much time do we have? Based on how they have acted before and where their fleets are now, I think 6 to 8 weeks before they attack, Dr. Wright said. They will probably target the core worlds first to scare everyone. General Stone looked at the tactical displays on his screens. His mind was thinking through emergency plans that humanity had hoped they would never need to use. What is the Council doing about this? Major Collins pulled up recent communications that they had intercepted. Councillor Zethkar gave a speech yesterday calling the reports fears without proof, and saying the Council remains committed to peaceful solutions for all conflicts. The room became very quiet as everyone understood what this meant. Humanity had spent many years trying to prepare the galaxy for this moment, only to be dismissed and pushed aside. Now, when the storm finally came, they would have to face it alone. Begin Protocol 7, President Wells ordered quietly. Start full mobilization of all Terran defense forces. Call back all deep space exploration ships. Activate all reserve fleets. Ma'am, Admiral Morgan said, Protocol 7 means stopping all non-essential activities and changing to a total war economy. Are you sure about this? Wells's face became hard and determined. Admiral, in 8 weeks, the Keth Mori are going to tear through Council space like a plasma storm through paper. The Council will realize too late that their peaceful solutions and diplomatic meetings mean nothing to an empire built on conquest and slavery. When that happens, Earth may be the only thing standing between them and complete control of this galaxy. The mobilization began immediately. Across human space, civilian shipyards were changed to build military ships. Reserve forces were called to active duty, and every human world began preparing for siege conditions. The research facilities that had once worked with Council scientists now focused entirely on developing new weapons and defensive systems. Dr. Cooper, now serving as humanity's Minister of Scientific Defense, worked day and night to complete projects that had been just ideas months before. The gravitational pulse cannon, the quantum mine, the neural disruptor field. These were technologies that the Council had called unnecessarily aggressive, but were now humanity's best hope for survival. Human fleets took their positions along the outer boundaries of Terran space. Every captain understood how big this challenge was. They were not just defending human worlds. They were preparing to become the shield that would protect a galaxy too naive to protect itself. Captain Rick Stevens commanded the human monitoring station at Outpost Charlie. It was positioned just outside the official boundary of Terran space. His orders were clear. Watch, record, and report everything he saw. Do not fight. Do not help anyone. Just observe. Stevens watched his screens showing the peaceful alien worlds that had rejected human warnings. The Veltar with their beautiful crystal cities. The Zeleni with their efficient hive colonies. The Phalons with their artistic culture and philosophy of nonviolence. All of them had voted to exclude humanity from important Council decisions, because humans were too focused on military solutions. Sir, Sergeant Amy Foster said from her station, we are getting reports that Kethamori scout ships have been seen near the Outer Rim colonies. The aliens are asking if we have any information about this. Stevens looked at the request on his screen. 6 months ago, humanity would have shared everything they knew. They would have offered help, advice, even military assistance. Now they followed strict orders to maintain radio silence with all non-human governments. No response, Stevens said. We are not part of the Council anymore. Their problems are not our problems. It hurt to say those words. Stevens had friends among the alien species. He had worked with them, learned from them, even saved some of their lives in past emergencies. But humanity had tried for years to warn them about this exact situation. They had been ignored, dismissed, and insulted for their efforts. Dr. Wright's computers continued to track Kethmori movements. The enemy fleets were getting bigger and moving closer to Council space every day. Intelligence suggested they had over 2,000 warships ready for the attack. The Council's combined defensive forces numbered less than 300 ships. most of them designed for patrol duties rather than real combat. "They are going to be slaughtered," Dr. Wright said, quietly as she studied the numbers. General Stone nodded. "Yes, they are. And then the Keth Mori will turn their attention to us." President Wells looked at the strategic projections showing the coming disaster. "How ready are we?" "As ready as we can be," Stone replied. "Every human world has been fortified. Every ship has been armed with our best weapons. Every soldier knows what we are fighting for. When the Keth Mori come for us, they will discover that humans are very different from the council species they just conquered." The final preparations continued day and night. Weapons factories worked around the clock. Military academies graduated new officers every week. Civilian populations practiced evacuation drills and learned to operate defensive systems. The Council had rejected humanity's warnings about the coming storm. Soon they would pay the price for their willful blindness. And when they did, they would finally understand what they had lost when they drove away the one species that truly understood the nature of war. The attack came at dawn, Galactic Standard Time, across 17 worlds at the same moment. On the crystal cities of Veltar Prime, Counselor Zethkar was reading his morning reports when the first Kethemori battleships appeared in space above his world. The beautiful spires that had stood for 1,000 years crumbled under plasma fire within hours. Emergency messages flooded Council communication networks. But the careful diplomatic language that had governed galactic politics for centuries could not describe the sheer brutality of what was happening. Captain Rick Stevens watched from his monitoring station at Outpost Charlie, positioned just outside Terran space. His orders were simple: observe, record, and report. Do not engage. Do not help. As he watched the massacre on his screens, every instinct told him to intervene. "Captain," Sergeant Amy Foster said from her station, her voice tight with emotion, "we are receiving emergency calls from Phalon refugee ships. They are asking for immediate help." Stevens gripped his command chair as he watched Keth Mori fighters systematically destroy the defenseless evacuation vessels. The Phalons had been among the loudest voices criticizing human militarism. Now, they were paying the price for their faith in Council protection. "Negative, Sergeant. Maintain radio silence." The words felt like poison in his mouth, but Stevens understood the bigger picture. Humanity could not save the galaxy by throwing itself away in small, meaningless gestures. Across the galaxy, the same pattern repeated everywhere. The peaceful civilizations that had dismissed human warnings found themselves helpless against an enemy that respected only strength. Council defense fleets, designed for patrol duties and ceremonial displays, were swept aside by Keth Mori warships, built for conquest. On Earth, the Strategic Command Center tracked the advancing enemy with cold precision. General Stone stood before massive screens showing the systematic collapse of Council resistance. Red lights marked fallen worlds, while amber showed systems under attack. Green had become a very rare color on the galactic map. "Zephyria system has gone dark," reported Colonel Danny Kim from Intelligence. "That makes 23 Council worlds in the first 48 hours. President Wells studied the tactical projections with grim determination. "How long before they reach the core worlds?" Dr. Wright, who had been running continuous calculations, looked up from her computers. "At their current pace, the Keth Mori will attack the Council capital within 2 weeks. After that," she gestured helplessly at the projections showing an unstoppable wave of conquest rolling toward the galaxy's heart. Admiral Morgan's voice came through the communication system from his position with the Fourth Fleet. "Madam President, we are receiving hundreds of requests for help. Species that would not return our calls 6 months ago are now begging for assistance." "Our response?" Wells asked, though she already knew the answer. "We are maintaining strict non-interference," Stone confirmed. "All human vessels are positioned according to Protocol 7. We defend Terran space and nothing else." The decision was strategically sound but emotionally devastating. Every human who had served with alien colleagues, every scientist who had worked on peaceful research, every diplomat who had genuinely believed in galactic unity, felt the weight of abandoned friends and former allies. Lieutenant Commander Kelly Brown, monitoring communications from the Deep Space Array, reported increasing desperation in Council transmissions. The Zelani are offering to share their quantum technology in exchange for protection. The Veltar are promising exclusive mining rights to their crystal formations. Too little, too late, Wells responded quietly. They had years to listen to. Our warnings, years to prepare. They chose to believe their own propaganda about the peaceful nature of the universe. On the edge of Council space, Kethmori Admiral Vexthor commanded his fleet from the massive battleship Dominator. The conquest had proceeded even more smoothly than he had expected. These Council species, with their committees and debates and diplomatic protocols, were pathetically easy to defeat. Their ships were beautiful works of art, but their crews were scholars and artists pressed into military service with minimal training. As reports flowed in from his advancing fleets, Vexthor began to plan the final phase of the campaign. Intelligence indicated that somewhere beyond Council space lay the homeworld of the species called humans. These were the ones who had withdrawn from the Council just before the war began. His tactical analyst suggested that this withdrawal indicated cowardice, but Vexthor had not conquered half the galaxy by underestimating his enemies. "Prepare the scout fleets," he ordered his lieutenant. "I want full intelligence on these humans before we encounter them. Their timing in leaving the Council seems convenient." Meanwhile, on Luna Station, the final elements of humanity's defensive strategy were falling into place. Captain Victor Hayes, recently promoted to oversee the Sol system's defensive grid, reported completion of the last orbital weapons platforms. All automated defense networks are online, Hayes announced to the command staff. Quantum mines deployed at all hyperspace entry points. Neural disruptor fields activated around all inhabited worlds. If the Kethmori want to take our systems, they are going to pay for every meter of space. Dr. Cooper, now wearing the uniform of the Terran Scientific Corps, added his own assessment. Our weapons tests show significant advantages over Kethmori. Technology. Their ships are built for intimidation and overwhelming firepower against poorly defended targets. They are not designed to face an enemy that shoots back effectively. As the third day of the Galactic War began, the scope of the disaster became clear. Nearly half of Council space was under Kethmori control, with the remainder falling rapidly. Billions of beings had been killed or enslaved, and entire civilizations had been erased from existence. The beautiful crystal cities of the Veltar were now smoking ruins. The artistic colonies of the Phalons had been turned into slave camps. The efficient hive worlds of the Zelani were being strip-mined for resources. Everything that had made the galaxy a diverse and wonderful place was being systematically destroyed by an empire that saw other species as nothing more than resources to be exploited. Captain Stevens received regular updates on the destruction. Each report was worse than the last. The Council's emergency government had been forced to evacuate the capital. Their fleet was scattered and running. Their diplomatic corps was either dead or in hiding. "Sir," Sergeant Foster said quietly, "The Council is broadcasting a general distress call. They are asking any free species to come to their aid." Stevens looked at the message on his screen. It was addressed to all civilized beings in the galaxy and promised eternal gratitude and significant compensation to anyone who would help them fight the Kethmori. The desperation was obvious in every word. "No response," Stevens said. "We have our orders." But privately, Stevens wondered how long humanity could maintain this position. The Kethmori were not going to stop with Council space. Once they had consumed every world, enslaved every population, and stripped every resource from the former Council territories, they would turn their attention to the one group that had escaped their initial assault. Deep in space, where human ships waited in perfect formation behind their defensive lines, a different kind of preparation was reaching completion. The galaxy was about to learn why humanity had been so insistent about the need for strong defenses. They were about to discover what the Council had lost when they drove away the one species that understood the true nature of war. The Kethmori were coming, and when they arrived at the borders of human space, they would find an enemy unlike any they had ever faced before. The last free worlds of the Galactic Council fell on the 10th day of the war. Counselor Zethkar, broadcasting from a hidden bunker on his homeworld's third moon, sent a final message before Kethmori forces found his position. To any free peoples, still listening. His crystal voice cracked with static and desperation. The council was wrong. We should have listened. We should have prepared. If anyone receives this message, remember that we failed not because we lacked the means to defend ourselves, but because we lacked the wisdom to heed those who understood our enemies. The transmission ended in plasma fire and silence. Captain Alex Johnson, commanding the deep space monitoring vessel TDS Vigilant, recorded the final moments of the Veltar civilization with professional detachment that hid his personal pain. He had served alongside Veltar officers during his early career, had learned their beautiful mathematical poetry, had considered many of them friends. Signal recorded and filed, reported his communications officer, Lieutenant Susan Clark. All council networks have gone dark. Long-range sensors show Kethmori fleets are gathering their forces before the next phase. Admiral Morgan's voice reached them across space from the command ship. All vessels maintain position. Kethmori advanced scouts have been detected at the edge of Terran space. Estimated contact in 36 hours. On Earth, President Wells addressed the nation from the Oval Office. Her words carried to every human settlement across dozens of star systems. Behind her calm face lay the weight of humanity's greatest challenge. They were now the only thing standing between the Kethmori Empire and total galactic domination. My fellow humans, she began, for 3 centuries, we have dreamed of taking our place among the stars as part of a peaceful galactic community. We offered our knowledge, our friendship, and our protection to species across the galaxy. When they rejected our warnings about the growing threat, we respected their choice and withdrew to our own space. In the Strategic Command Center, General Stone monitored fleet positions as Wells' speech continued. Every human ship was exactly where it needed to be. Every defensive system was operating at peak efficiency, and every soldier understood what was at stake. Today, we stand alone, Wells continued. The civilizations that called us aggressive now lie in ruins. The council that deemed our preparations unnecessary has been scattered to the winds, but we will not allow tyranny to triumph simply because others were unprepared to face it. Dr. Wright's analysis had proven devastatingly accurate. The Kethmori Empire, having swept through council space almost unopposed, was now ready to face an enemy unlike any they had encountered before. Intelligence reports suggested that Admiral Vexthor had committed his finest fleets to the assault on human space, confident that the same tactics that had conquered the council would work here as well. Lieutenant Commander Rachel Torres, serving aboard the battleship TDS Retribution, checked her tactical systems one final time. Around her, the bridge crew prepared for humanity's first major engagement with the Kethmori Empire. Every simulation, every training exercise, every strategic discussion had led to this moment. Enemy fleet detected dropping out of hyperspace, reported the sensor officer. Estimated strength, 300 vessels, mixed cruiser and destroyer classes. Captain Eddie Miller, the Retribution's commanding officer, studied the tactical display with satisfaction. The Kethmori had sent what they considered an overwhelming force. It was the same number of ships that had destroyed the Council's core defense fleet just days earlier. What they did not understand was that human ships were not Council ships and human crews were not Council crews. Signal the fleet, Miller ordered. Implement Battle Plan Alpha. Let's show them what they have gotten themselves into. The first engagement took place in the asteroid fields of the Kepler system, where human mining operations had been suspended for the war effort. Admiral Vexthor, commanding from his flagship, watched with amusement as the human defenders appeared to flee before his advancing forces. These humans are no different from the others, he told his tactical officer. They run when faced with superior numbers, pursue and destroy. But the retreat was precisely calculated. Human ships led the Kethmori fleet directly into a trap that had been months in the making. Quantum mines invisible to standard sensors detonated in perfect sequence. Neural disruptor fields activated, jamming Kethmori targeting systems. And from hidden positions among the asteroids, human battle groups emerged with weapons already locked onto their targets. Captain Miller's voice rang out across the command frequency as the ambush was sprung. All ships, engage at will. Show them what happens when they threaten humanity. The battle that followed shattered every assumption the Kethmori had made about human capabilities. Their ships, designed to intimidate poorly armed opponents, found themselves facing weapons that could penetrate their armor and shields with devastating effectiveness. Their tactics, perfected against species that fought individual duels in space, proved useless against coordinated human battle groups that fought as unified fleets. Human ships moved with deadly precision through the asteroid field. The TDS Retribution led a squadron of destroyers in a flanking maneuver that caught a Kethmori cruiser squadron completely off guard. Quantum torpedoes lanced through space, each one finding its target with computer-guided accuracy. "Direct hit on the enemy flagship," reported the weapons officer. "Their shields are down, they are venting atmosphere." The Kethmori had never faced an enemy that used such coordinated tactics. Their ships were powerful individually, but they fought like a collection of separate units rather than a unified force. Human battle groups, trained to operate as single entities, systematically dismantled the enemy formation. Captain Torres, commanding a squadron of heavy cruisers, caught a group of Kethmori destroyers trying to escape through a gap in the asteroid field. Her ships had been waiting in that exact position for 2 hours, engines cold and weapons charged. "Target the lead destroyer," she ordered. "Fire gravitational pulse cannons." The exotic weapons that Dr. Cooper had developed specifically for this war proved their worth. The gravitational pulse cannon created a localized distortion in space-time that tore the enemy ship apart at the molecular level. It was a weapon that the Council had called unnecessarily destructive. Now it was humanity's edge against a superior enemy. Within 4 hours, Admiral Vex Thor's unstoppable armada was reduced to scattered wreckage drifting among the asteroids. Only a handful of ships escaped to carry word of the defeat back to the main Kethmori fleet. But for humanity, the victory came with a terrible realization. The reports from the few Kethmori survivors indicated that this had been merely a scouting force. The main enemy fleet, over 2,000 ships strong, was already moving toward human space. Dr. Cooper, monitoring the battle from Luna Station, ran calculations on his quantum computers. "General, based on the weapons performance data from Kepler, we can defeat them. But the cost," he paused, reviewing the projections. "We will lose approximately 40% of our fleet in the process." Stone nodded grimly. "And after we defeat this fleet, there will be another, and another after that. The Kethmori Empire spans half the galaxy now. They can replace their losses. We cannot." President Wells, joining the strategic session via secure communication, made the decision that would define humanity's role in galactic history. "Signal all fleet commanders. We fight. We fight because someone has to. We fight because if we do not, there will be no one left to remember that freedom once existed in this galaxy." The message went out across human space, and on every ship, in every defensive position, humanity prepared for the battle that would determine not just their own survival, but the fate of all free peoples in the galaxy. The main Kethmori battle fleet arrived at the edge of human space like a swarm of metal locusts, their massive ships blocking out the stars. Admiral Vex Thor had brought everything he had, 2,000 vessels carrying the might of an empire that had consumed civilizations for centuries. Intelligence from the Kepler battle had convinced him that the humans possessed dangerous weapons, but numbers would decide this war. They always did. Admiral Morgan, commanding the combined human fleet from the TDS Defiance, watched the enemy formation approach with the calm of a veteran who had accepted the odds long ago. Around him, the bridge crew of Earth's finest prepared for what every tactical analysis suggested would be their final battle. "Enemy fleet is assuming attack formation," reported Commander Janet Roberts from the tactical station. 2,000 confirmed vessels, including 12 super dreadnoughts. "Signal all ships," Morgan ordered. "Execute final protocol. Every ship, every crew, every weapon. We hold nothing back." The final protocol was humanity's ultimate strategic gambit, developed in the desperate months following their withdrawal from the Council. If they were to face the entire might of the Kethmori Empire, They would do so in a way that ensured maximum impact. Every human ship was equipped with quantum cascade weapons that could chain react across multiple targets. Every defensive position was prepared to fight to the last. And every crew member understood that survival was less important than sending a message that would echo across the galaxy. On Earth, President Wells stood in the Strategic Command Center, surrounded by the finest military minds humanity had produced. The weight of 12 billion lives rested on decisions made in the next few hours, but she felt oddly calm. Whatever happened here would determine whether freedom had any future in this galaxy. Madam President, General Stone reported, all civilian populations have been evacuated to the inner system defensive rings. Colonial fleets are in position around their respective worlds. If we fall here, they will be ready to continue the fight. The first exchange of fire began at maximum weapons range and immediately revealed the fundamental difference between human and Kethmori philosophies of war. The enemy attacked in massive waves, relying on overwhelming firepower to break through any defense. Humanity responded with precision strikes, coordination, and tactics that turned each engagement into a carefully orchestrated trap. Captain Jennifer Walsh, commanding the destroyer TDS Relentless, led her squadron in the opening assault on the Kethmori right flank. Her ships moved with the fluid grace of a school of deadly fish, quantum torpedoes lancing out to cripple enemy vessels before darting away from return fire. Enemy super dreadnought taking the bait, reported her weapons officer, Lieutenant Carl Edwards. Following us into the gravity well as planned. Walsh smiled grimly. The Kethmori ship, massive and powerful, was being led directly into a prepared kill zone where human heavy cruisers waited with charged gravitational pulse cannons. The enemy captain, used to overwhelming weaker opponents with brute force, had no experience fighting an enemy that used their own aggression against them. The battle raged for 18 hours across 3 star systems. Human ships fought with desperate brilliance, employing every innovation their scientists had developed, every tactic their strategists had devised, every ounce of courage their crews possessed. But the mathematics of war were inexorable. For every Kethmori ship destroyed, humanity lost vessels they could not replace. Dr. Cooper, monitoring the battle from his scientific command post, watched his carefully designed weapons prove themselves against the enemy. Quantum mines disabled entire squadrons. Neural disruptors drove enemy crews into confusion. Gravitational pulse cannons tore through armor that had been considered impenetrable. Our weapons are working better than projected, he reported to the command staff. We are achieving a kill ratio of nearly 3-to-1. Not enough, Stone replied, studying the tactical displays. Even at those rates, we will be overwhelmed by pure numbers. The turning point came when Admiral Vexthor, frustrated by the unexpected resistance, committed his reserve forces to a direct assault on the human command ship. The TDS Defiance, surrounded by the enemy's finest vessels, seemed doomed. But Admiral Morgan had one final card to play. All ships, this is Admiral Morgan. His voice carried across every human vessel in the battle. Implement Omega Protocol. It has been an honor serving with you all. The Omega Protocol was humanity's ultimate sacrifice. Every ship would target not enemy vessels, but the quantum cascade generators that Dr. Cooper had secretly installed throughout the battle zone. The resulting explosion would destroy everything in a light-year radius, enemy and human alike. But it would also create a quantum resonance that would carry a message across subspace to every inhabited world in the galaxy. As the cascade began, Admiral Vexthor realized too late what the humans had done. His victory had become a trap, and his entire fleet was about to become a monument to the price of underestimating desperate defenders. But in the moments before the cascade reached critical mass, something unexpected happened. Long-range sensors detected massive hyperspace signatures approaching from the edge of the system. Ships were arriving, thousands of them, bearing the markings of species that had supposedly been conquered or destroyed. The lead vessel opened, communications, and a familiar voice filled the quantum static. This is Captain Rico Valdez of the Free Phalon Resistance Fleet. All human vessels, we are here to help. Across the galaxy, the survivors of the Kethmori conquest had watched the Humans stand at their last battle. The quantum resonance had carried more than just a message. It had carried the tactical data of how to fight the enemy effectively, the specifications for weapons that could penetrate Kethmori defenses, and the inspiration of a species that chose to fight rather than surrender. The Zeleni had rebuilt their ships with human weapon designs. The Veltar survivors had learned human tactics. The scattered refugees of a dozen civilizations had united under the banner of resistance, and they had come to stand with the species that had tried to warn them years before. Admiral Morgan, his ship crippled but still fighting, felt tears streaming down his face as he watched former enemies and abandoned allies emerge from hyperspace. All ships cancel Omega Protocol. Repeat, cancel Omega Protocol. We have friends incoming. The second phase of the battle lasted another day, but the outcome was never in doubt. The combined fleet of free peoples, armed with human weapons and fighting with human determination, systematically destroyed the Kethmori force. Admiral Vexthor's flagship was the last to fall, its commander finally understanding that he had not been fighting a single species, but an idea that could not be conquered. In the aftermath, as rescue ships searched for survivors and medical vessels tended to the wounded, President Wells received a transmission that would reshape galactic politics. It was from the Reformed Council of Free Worlds, established by the resistance movements that had grown from the ashes of conquest. President Wells, the message began, we were wrong. We were foolish. We were blind to the threats that you tried so hard to help us see. We cannot undo the damage of our ignorance, but we can ask for your forgiveness and your leadership. Will humanity accept the position of first among equals in a new galactic government dedicated to the defense of freedom? Wells looked around the command center at the humans who had paid such a terrible price for the galaxy's freedom. Half their fleet was gone, tens of thousands of their finest people had died, and Earth itself bore the scars of the enemy's final, desperate assault. Draft a response, she told her aide. Tell them we accept, but with conditions. This new council will be built on the principle that freedom requires eternal vigilance, that those who warn of danger will be heard, not silenced, that the price of peace is the preparation for war. As the message went out across the galaxy, a new age began. Humanity had departed the old council in silence, but they would help build the new one with voices that could never again be ignored.